Hey, how you doing? This landscape business, filming in landscape. I'm still not sure where I'm meant to be looking to in the camera. This phone is relatively new. Hopefully, I'm looking straight into the camera. Imagine if Newsnight started like this with Emily Maitlis looking into the wrong camera. Good news, back from another run. Becoming less of a struggle at the moment. The milder weather definitely helping. Noisy shorts, that's something that concerns me. There's the police siren. That's all the proof you need that I'm living in South London. Noisy shorts remind me a bit of why I stopped wearing corduroys. I like corduroys, I like the way they feel, but they're noisy trousers, turn heads when you're walking. Also, bulbous crutch. If you're a corduroys fan, the crutch, you sit down and it always looks like you've got a hernia. Uh, just back to the running briefly, or still with the running. The left nipple no longer chafing. Again, that's very positive news. I think what was happening there is I was leading with the left arm when I was running. I suppose that feeds into my long time obsession of trying to pass myself off as left-handed to convey an air of intrigue. Um, that's caused me so much trouble over the years. Back in 1992, Stockwell Station, this is in the days before chip and pin, when if you were using your debit card, you had to sign, and I was buying a travel card and I signed left-handed. The signature bore no resemblance to my usual signature and my card was confiscated. So that's that desire to be left-handed has caused me some difficulties over the years. Minor admin to report before pushing on with the first of two posts today. I've got 5 yogurts from Lidl's that need to be eaten by the 15th of August. That's causing me some concern. Anyway, today, the first of two Writers Live posts today. I'm going back to the summer of 2001, and a curious day. Things were going relatively well for me in that I'd started to establish myself in the world of TV. So the previous year, despite being the worst of my life, losing my mum, I'd somehow kept going, and I'd gained a toehold in the industry. I was now working for an indie, writing something that would go on to be made into a straight to DVD film, which was of no concern to me in the end because by then I'd been kicked off the project. But anyway, it was a Friday and I was working with this guy, Danny DeVito, and the second of today's videos will concern Danny DeVito, so I don't need to say too much more about him now, but I was working with him, and I think I had a call. I had a call from the doctors. No, I think I had a call from my uncle actually. My dad had been rushed to hospital. Something had happened. I think my uncle had told me that it was a heart attack, but I'd seen my dad earlier that week, and he was fine. He was a very strong, fit man, but certainly losing my mum, even though they were separated by then, it had taken a toll on him. I mean, literally overnight, his hair had gone from black to mainly white. There was a definite change in him. So I was working with Danny DeVito on this script, and I took the call, and so much had happened in that last 18 months, so much drama that I was, I kind of took it in my stride, and I said to myself, really, I'll deal with it later. Danny DeVito said, look, you really should go. It was a long trek back to South London. I just thought, I'll finish my day's work here. I'll head back and I'll see to it. In the end, I left a bit earlier. I just couldn't really focus. I turned up at St Thomas's Hospital in Westminster. Turned out I'd been sent to the wrong hospital. They told me I had to go to Guy's. I remember calling Danny DeVito from there. So I turned up at Guy's anyway, eventually found my dad. He'd had a heart attack a few days earlier, apparently. And he didn't know anything about it, though he did tell me, and this is something I never forgot, that he was in Sainsbury's in Clapham when he'd felt the worst pain he'd ever felt in his life and he'd had to sit down. That always stayed with me. So I went to see him. He was looking right as rain, to be honest. I mean, he loved being in hospitals. That was his natural environment. He loved just chatting to people, patients, nurses, doctors. He'd always had that curiosity when it came to medicine. He was there with his hairy chest out, not overly hairy, but definitely hirsute, and a hairy chest. The sun only needed to promise to be coming out, and that chest was on display, very much a 70s man. So I think they were going to do an operation, a minor operation over the weekend, inserting a stent or a balloon. I don't know if that an angioplasty, possibly something along those lines. Anyway, and my dad, that's it. My dad had taken up smoking again after the best part of 20 years without smoking after my mum passed away. And my dad, and this is where I get it from. My dad couldn't do anything by halves, really. Very addictive personality, again, which is why I knew I could never do drugs. I would have had a problem. And so my dad, as soon as he started smoking again after 20 years, he just became a chain smoker again. He was like a South American football manager. So he's there, and I'm telling him, I'm speaking to him, and I'm, saying, look, you really need to take it easy. I can't be losing another another parent in the so soon after losing my mum, please. And he just kept looking down at his chest, and I thought, is he taking this in? And here's what was bothering him. They'd shaved his chest to do this, to prepare him for this minor surgery, and he'd noticed that his chest hair was uneven, and he was looking at this. It was bothering him. He was like, it's not like I'm going to go on holiday, he said, but but what if I want to go on holiday? What if I want to lie on a beach? Look at this. Where can I go with this? The chest hair's uneven. It's like, yeah, but you haven't been on holiday since 1976. It was now 2001. You don't need to worry about the chest. But my options, I'd like the option of going on holiday, he said. So there was no getting through to him. The chest hair had to be evened out. And it so turned out that we both knew an orderly who worked in Guy's Hospital, a friend of the family on my dad's side, a guy who did marathons. Every other year I tended to see him on the BBC's coverage of the London Marathon. He was always running marathons, little guy. He must have been in his late 40s by then. I can't remember his name now. I would have remembered his name a while back. Further evidence of the decline here. So my dad said, look, you've got to go and find this guy. Might have been George, I don't know. I'm making things up now, maybe. You've got to go and find this guy. I'm going to give you some money. And I want you to go and find this guy, give him the money, tell him to come and do my chest. And I was given £20. Yeah, my dad was overly generous. He was like this with the receptionists at the health centre. He would buy them presents every Christmas. And when he eventually passed away, it struck me that I was under pressure to continue what the receptionist might have seen as a tradition. And I'm kind of pleased now in a way that so much time has gone by now that I think there's only one or two receptionists who probably remember my dad's generosity and are no longer, saying to the other new receptionist, that guy, his dad was so generous, this guy's tired, he's never bought us anything. Every single Christmas since his dad passed away, we've never had a present from him. So I had to go and find this guy. I think his name was George, actually. I think it was George. I had to go and find him. He was, I suppose because he had no option. It's etiquette. You turn down the money when it's initially offered to you. He knew my dad. He was friends with my dad. Oh, I can't take the money, blah, blah, blah. But of course, he was going to take the money. He took the money, and it did cross my mind that maybe he suddenly thought there was some lucrative sideline for him there, evening out the uneven chest hair of patients who might have had heart attacks who were in the hospital unhappy with the state of their chest hair. It was one of the most difficult, awkward conversations I've had to carry out, finding someone I hadn't seen for a long time. How are you? Blah, blah, blah. What you doing here? Yes, my dad's upstairs. He's had a heart attack, apparently. And trying to find that segue to take it to the chest hair. He had a fair idea of what my dad was like. They knew my dad was eccentric, and he turned up. I think he turned up the following day with some razors, hopefully clean razors. You would have thought maybe from that £20 he'd been given, he would have spent £5 or £6 on a new razors. And that was it, really. That's I think we all reach that point in our lives where someone who we've always seen as strong and taken for granted that they're always going to be there's that moment in your life where you realize that things have taken a big change here. I think my dad was out of the hospital by the Monday, returned home, didn't really absorb the lessons the hospital had told him, no more running and all that. Evened out chest hair. Wasn't going on holiday, but the chest hair was even. Anyway, do please click the like and subscribe buttons. Subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/Daniel Ruiz Ties, and share the videos if you're enjoying them. This is no longer about me getting to that dream riverside apartment that I promised my mum I would get us to back in the day, just on the other side of Vauxhall Bridge on Grosvenor Road. That's not going to happen. This is simply about maybe making enough money to buy myself a few extra weeks in the care home, as the decline starts to take over, as I shove off to my room, hopefully en suite facilities, try to build up a rapport with care workers. This is that. If I can try and find a way of monetizing this channel, making those final weeks more comfortable, that'll be great. Look after yourselves. Look out for another video tonight.